Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 21 of 21, where we cover what I wrote 1 year ago about the candidates who participated in the first Democratic presidential primary debate. And we're to the presumptive nominee. Former Vice President Joe Biden, who entered the race on April the 25th, 2019, and became the presumptive nominee almost exactly 1 year ago, 1 year after that, on April the 8th, 2020. And this is what I wrote. Biden, the former vice president and frontrunner, is going to be in for a brutal night. Biden will be hit more times than a pinata at a birthday party. Biden has nearly a 50-year record to run on. And while that might lead to a credible claim of experience, it also has a 50 years of statements that in today's context might be out of step with his party. Biden's best defense should not be to apologize for those statements, but explain the context of the times and how he arrived at those positions. The worst thing Joe Biden can do is apologize, because if he does, his opponents will smell blood in the water and attack him viciously. It will also leave voters with the impression he is a flip-flopper. He has also already reversed his position on an issue already in this campaign. Voters will forgive a lot, but someone slippery on policy is often a bridge too far. Biden's opponents will hit him as too old, not liberal enough, and not the best space for a rapidly changing party. Bottom line, if Biden doesn't apologize for every position he has ever taken and remains calm and explains why on policy he is the best candidate to take on Trump, Biden also has to not say anything stupid for the next 17 months, and he gets to be president. Biden tested a term shortly before he ran. I'm an Obama Democrat. I think in this Democratic primary, this is his best argument. He needs to remind voters exactly who he is. Biden should strongly argue that then Senator Obama, and later President Obama, the first African American president of the United States, believed that he, Joe Biden, was the best person to be one heartbeat away from the presidency. And that is a true statement. When he was running for the presidency, Barack Obama looked out across the United States and the Democratic Party and said that the candidate that he would run on a ticket with and serve as his vice president if elected president was Joe Biden. That Joe Biden, in his mind, was the most qualified person in the country besides himself to be president. When he ran for re-election, he reaffirmed that belief by having Joe Biden run with him for a second term. And Joe Biden served dutifully beside Barack Obama for 8 years. Any disagreement the two may have had on policy stayed in private. And Joe Biden went out and supported Barack Obama's position, even if it differed from his own. Joe Biden won this nomination for a multitude of reasons. One, he got was very fortunate to receive the endorsement of James Clyburn before the South Carolina Democratic primary, and was able to win a huge victory in that primary that convinced the other candidates that were running in the centrist lane to drop out. Then and there, before the Super Tuesday not only drop out but endorse his candidacy. He was also very lucky in the fact that Michael Bloomberg, for all the money he spent on the campaign, his campaign really imploded when it was apparent that Biden wasn't going to fall apart. And he was also became the nominee because Bernie Sanders was not able to generate the support among African American voters that is needed to win a Democratic primary and election. I talked about this in the Sanders video last night. You have to have substantial support from African American voters to win a Democratic primary, or you're not going to win. And Bernie Sanders could not generate that support. It was a very tough constituency for him to make any traction with in 2016, and in 2020 the same was true. Look at the states where African Americans play a huge role in the Democratic Party. Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Missouri. Bernie Sanders did not fare well in those states. And Joe Biden did. And Joe Biden has consistently had good numbers with African American voters. And I think in large part that is because of how dutifully he served Barack Obama as his vice president. I saw a African American comment before Sanders dropped out. I believe it was around the time of the. It was on Super Tuesday, in fact. Now that I remember correctly, it was on Super Tuesday, and this voter said that Joe Biden had this long and distinguished career in public service and politics, but he humbled himself for a man that had a much shorter career, that had beaten him for the nomination for president. Joe Biden ran against Barack Obama in 2008. And not only did he humble himself, he served with that man under him. That man became his boss. And he served beside him, supported him totally, never got out in front of him, and never took credit for accomplishments that he shouldn't have. Joe Biden, that meant a lot to this African American voter. It was a younger African American voter. But I think it meant even more. Probably, I can't speak to it, I'm not an African American, but to older African American voters who are of the same age as Joe Biden. And that is a large part of why Joe Biden won. Joe Biden had the support of the most important constituency in the Democratic Party. The constituency that is going to help make Donald Trump a one-term president. Voters of color, African American voters, Latino voters, Hispanic Americans. While Bernie Sanders had performed well with younger Hispanics, look at how he performed in Florida. Clearly, there was a divide in the Hispanic community about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders lost the state of Arizona. Joe Biden, as I said, needed to make the argument that he was the best candidate to take on Trump, because he is. But also, Joe Biden can provide that contrast. I know Trump is eager to propose that Biden's hiding out in a bunker. Well, Donald Trump's on TV every day, and Joe Biden's campaigning from his home office, and he's beating Donald Trump by 15 percentage points in the latest opinion poll of the race. I think campaigning from the home office is working out pretty good for Joe Biden. Also, Donald Trump has to realize that he's not running against Hillary Clinton in this race. A large part of why Donald Trump won in 2016 was that he won independent voters and late deciding voters. Now, there's a multitude of reasons why he won late deciding voters. James Comey, Russian interference, just apathy on voters' parts and saying, we'll give him a chance, what's the most we can lose? You had some Republicans that came home after swearing up and down they wouldn't support Donald Trump. In the end, in the privacy of the voting booth, they supported Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to suffer from that luxury in 2016. He's the incumbent. His polling numbers among independents are terrible. And I don't see the late deciding voters breaking for him this time. I think those late deciding voters are going to be like, you know what? These last 4 years have been a disaster. They have been exhausting. They're going to choose to end the exhaustion and the nuttery of it all by voting for Joe Biden. I think we're on the precipice of something very large and probably unseen for a long time happening in this country this November, and that is a huge electoral victory for one particular candidate. It's very possible that Joe Biden may get over 400 electoral votes. And as the days go by, I think it becomes more possible. Texas is possibly in play. Georgia's possibly in play. The Nebraska 2nd Congressional District. I mean, just up and down the mountain, states that no one thought would be in play are in play because of Donald Trump's fucking incompetence. I will see you all tomorrow. I thank you all for coming on this journey with me. Have a great night and be safe.